We are good, Frank.
All right. I call the Sex Offender Risk Review Board meeting for the 8th of January of the new year, 2026. And I call it to order. I want to welcome all of our guests via YouTube. And Tracy, could I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Mindy Ackerman.
Present.
Elizabeth Bigham could not be present. Isabel Brown.
Here.
Jerry Bruce.
Here.
James Chapin.
Here.
Robbie Frederick.
Here.
Katie Gropper. Jim Morton.
Here.
Frank Mullis.
Present.
Bert Reeves.
Here.
Lori Rozier.
Here.
Megan Thurman.
Here.
That is it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 participants, board members.
All right. I'll begin by reading the mission statement. Our purpose and mission is protecting Georgia's children and communities at large by identifying convicted sexual offenders that present the greatest risk of sexual reoffending. It is the board's responsibility to determine the likelihood that a sexual offender will engage in another crime against a victim who is a minor or a dangerous sexual offense. Assessments will be used by SORB to determine the risk level of the offenders. Offenders will be classified as level 1, level 2, or sexually dangerous predators. Have all members received and had an opportunity to review the minutes for the meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Any questions or comments or concerns about the minutes? Do I hear a motion that we adopt the minutes?
This is Lori. I motion that we adopt the December minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? The motion carries. Mindy, I believe you had to leave early today and you wanted us to do cases first. Is that correct?
If that's okay with the rest of the board.
Is
And
any-
it's not guaranteed that I'm leaving early, just in case.
Okay. Does anyone have a problem with that? Okay, we'll
Frank,
begin.
Can I go ahead and just introduce the people that are in this room that are not associated with the board?
Oh, okay. Of course. So
Yeah.
sorry.
Of course, we have our staff that is typically here for the board meetings, so the public would be familiar with them, but if you all could just stand up and give your name and a little bit of background.
Good morning, I'm Joel Barnett. I've been with the Sheriff's Department, a career in law enforcement for 34 years and happy to join SORB.
Sean Henry, I've been in law enforcement for 15 years and one of the clinical evaluators.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Richmond. I'm a new clinical evaluator. I am an APC seeking my LPC right now and specializing in problematic sexual behaviors.
Good morning, my name is Inga Vaughn. I have approximately 14 years of law enforcement experience and I am also one of the clinical evaluators.
We're very excited to have them. So 3 of them are full-time and 1 is part-time. And that maxes out our evaluator personnel.
On
Which
behalf
is
of the
at
board,
16 full-time people and 4 part-time.
on behalf of the board, I want to welcome you and look forward to working with you. Thank you. Tracy, could you discuss the leveling process for us?
Yes, so we received notification from the clerk of courts regarding sex offenders who have been prosecuted for a felony sex offense and a registrable sex offense, so we know who to put into our system. We also received lists from GDC, Pardons and Parole, GBI regarding sex offenders from out of state as well as sex offenders being released from incarceration. And all that goes into our system. Our investigators then tackle those cases by running a GCIC, and GBI runs an NCIC for us to know what cases to obtain, because not only sex offenses are obtained, anything that could be related to risks such as violent sex offenses are pulled, and they create a packet for the evaluator. that then goes into the flow for the evaluator who then chooses the case. And it's basically just chosen by immediacy first and then oldest case next. And then, of course, those with such as court orders that require a 90-day turnaround. And the evaluator completes the case by reviewing the criminal documentation, DCS, community behavior, treatment behavior, and progress or lack thereof, and prison behavior, and put that into a summary and recommended designation. It then goes for board members to read. There's no identifiers within the report. So if we know that a board member has worked on a case, such as because it was part of the they're part of the investigation, we recuse them, or they recuse themselves, so they know not to vote on that case. They read the cases and we bring it to the board meeting for the vote. And if those pass and a person's a 2 or prior, they can request reevaluation. The process starts over again.
All right. Thank you very much, Tracy. We have 16 level 1 cases that have been reviewed. Are there any recusals?
So I have, and if you want me to just go through them, Frank, and I can read all the recusals as we go through each level, would that be easier?
That'll be
So-
fine. And I've got one to add that's not on there. It's 33774 before you do that, or I forget.
Okay. Thank you. So Frank, you have 33774 as well as 29533. And then we also have a resubmit of 30667, which I pulled last month regarding using the risk assessments, and that has been updated and submitted for review.
All right. Do any members have any questions, comments, or concerns about the level 1 cases? All right. Do I hear a motion that we accept the level 1 cases as presented to the board for review?
So
Robbie,
moved.
so moved.
Second, Bert.
All right, Tracy, we've had our first and second. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mindy,
Aye.
Sheriff Brown,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Robbie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
They pass. And just a note for the public that whenever I say recused and I ask for a vote, they are not voting if they have been recused on those particular cases. Those cases pass.
Thank you. We have 42 level 2 cases that have been reviewed. Are there any recusals for the level 2 case?
There are several. And so Frank, I'll read yours first. Yours is 13907, 29911, 31300, and 32749. Liz had a recusal, but she's not here today. And then James had 30560, and then Jim had 21149. I believe that's it.
All right. Are there any questions or concerns or comments about the level 2 cases that are being reviewed today? All right. Do I hear a motion to adopt the level 2 cases presented to the board for review?
Lori, so moved.
Robbie, second.
All right. Thank you. Tracy, we've got our motions, and can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, and again, just as a reminder, those who have recused, so they're not voting on those particular cases. And Mindy,
Aye.
Sheriff Brown,
Aye.
Jerry,
Aye.
James,
Aye.
Robbie,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Frank,
Aye.
Bert,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
Those cases pass.
All right. Thank you. We have 22 sexually dangerous predator cases. Any recusals?
There are 3 for you, Frank: 27207, 30080, and 33758. And that is all that I have that I'm aware of.
Any other recusals that we may have missed? All right, any questions, concerns, or comments about the sexually dangerous predator cases that are being reviewed today? Do I hear a motion that we accept the cases?
James, I must move.
Second, Ezell.
All right, thank you. Tracy, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Mindy, any questions or concerns or any of the sexually dangerous predator cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Sheriff Brown, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No questions. My vote is aye.
Jerry, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
James, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Robbie, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No questions or concerns. My vote is aye.
Jim, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Frank, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases other than your recusals?
No, and my vote is aye.
Bert, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, aye.
Lori, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
And Megan, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
They pass.
All right, thank you. And finally, we have eight reevaluation cases. Any recusals?
I have one, which is Jim's at 27766.
All right. Do we have any questions, concerns, or comments about the reeval cases that are being reviewed today? All right, I think we're ready for a vote.
Nope. You have to make a
sorry.
motion.
Robbie, I
Oh,
move that they're accepted.
I apologize.
Lori, second.
All right, now I think we're ready. I apologize.
That's okay. Okay, Mindy, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Sheriff Brown, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No questions, no concern. My vote is aye.
Jerry, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
James, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, my vote is aye.
Robbie, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Jim, other than your recusal, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Frank, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Burr, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, aye.
Lori, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, my vote is aye.
And Megan, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No, my vote is aye.
It pass.
All right, thank you. We are now going to move into our reports. And we do have, I believe, a report from Bird today. Is that correct?
I don't know if it's a report or if it's old business. I think that I don't know if it's old business, new business, or a report. I don't know how we want to fashion it, but we bumped voting on the bylaw standing procedure and rules changes from December to today to give everybody a chance to review and see if they have any questions. And so hopefully we're in a posture to vote today.
All right.
I only
Tracy?
saw, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Tracy. That was going to refer to you.
Well, when I was putting it together, it just kind of hit me that when we did a maximum number of 3 subgroups and 4 board members, the maximum, the issue would be, we currently have 12 board members, but we can have up to 15. So that would create an issue for both things. And then also, if we end up wanting down the line to add board members beyond the 15, in request from the governor, given the number of cases, having a max number could become an issue.
Couple thoughts. I think we could put language that says at least or at a minimum, of subgroups and at a minimum of 4 members. So that gives the flexibility for you if we added another member, which subgroup you would put that person on. And remember, y'all, we're bound by the code, and the code is silent on most all of these things. And so we have the flexibility to be creative in how we shape, some of these procedures. And so I think as long as we put the words at a minimum of or at least, then that kind of sets a ground level and gives us the opportunity, gives the executive director the opportunity to add more if more board members are added. What was the second thing you said?
Well, really, having the number of board members required for each group could become an issue, whether it's less than the 4 or not, because if we lose a board member that is not one of the 6 seats, so the only mandatory appointments are the 6 seats. And so if we went down to 11, then we would again have an issue, we wouldn't be able to vote. So the numbers are just a concern for me.
And it's likely that we will, throughout time, lose and actually go down to 11 until it can be, until the seat can be filled. So what document, unfortunately, I left my folder at home. Which document are we, standing procedure? Is that the one that's going to be the most?
Yes, sir. That's it.
The rules, well, the rules is the information that we have to submit to the Secretary of State. So the other ones, the standing rules and the bylaws can be, worked much easier because the board can then, as long as there's the appropriate vote, can change those. But with the Secretary of State part, which is the rules, it's a lot more complicated. It'll probably take a couple months, if not more, to get these finalized.
All right, how about this? If we did a maximum of, I'm looking at standard procedure 1.1. So you said the rules is the one that we've got to submit. That's the most important.
Yeah, so that's letter B, which is where you're putting the subgroups and the number within each subgroup.
What do you mean B? Where is that?
So if you go into the rules, and
Okay,
it's very beginning, it says board membership.
Hang on, let me, I'm sorry, I'm having to pull all this up on the.
It's in red, Bert, if that helps. On the most recent version she sent.
Okay, so I need to go to the rules. I'm sorry, it's opening. It's just taking a second here. I don't know why. Okay. So in B, the board will be divided into 3 subgroups at discretion of the board, with each subgroup retaining. So I think if we just change, remember, we're not like, we can go back and amend all of this stuff again if we need to. So if, for example, the board grew beyond 16. So if we changed in B, if we change it to a maximum of 5 board members, then that would kind of account for a 15-member board. And so if we ever grew beyond a 15-member board, then we would need to adjust this number. But we're saying at least, with each subgroup containing a maximum of 5 board members, at least one of whom must be a professionally licensed clinician. Is everyone following and tracking that?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yes, sir.
That way, yeah, the maximum will be 5. If the board grows where we're going to need more than 5, then I think that would be the time where we would come back and look at this and then change the language in this document that would accommodate having more than what would be 15 members of the board.
Mhm.
So if we change in section under board membership in section B, if we change 4 in the second line, first sentence, if we change 4 to 5, then I think that would be sufficient. Is there anywhere else in this document that it doesn't look like it? Let's see. Okay, so in the rules, it looks like that would be the only change that would need to be made. Again, and what we're trying to do is accommodate for a situation where if we had more than 12 board members and we're trying to divide the members quasi-equally, then under the way that I proposed it, we wouldn't be able to have 4 board members because it says, we wouldn't be able to have 5 because it says maximum of 4. So if we changed a maximum of 5, then we should be able to accommodate that. That's a good catch, Tracy.
Thank you. And I think that'll be good because I don't anticipate a need to make that change anytime soon. So that wouldn't be a big deal.
And then corresponding with that on the standing procedure in 1.1 under Article 1, duties and responsibilities of board members. Under 1.1, we would want to mirror a maximum of, we would want to change 4 to 5. And then what did we decide? Didn't we decide, or didn't we more or less decide at the last discussion that only one, in order for the board to discuss cases and the whole board to vote on the cases, that we would need at least one board member, or did we decide 2 board members be present?
You mean from each subgroup?
From each subgroup.
And I know that there were some concerns from Katie and Mindy regarding that process. And so that's why I submitted to you guys a very, 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 very rough draft. I was just trying to open the door for conversation regarding what it might look like for a form that I could send to each of you that shows that you've read and what your opinion is on those cases that you're in the group for. So there's always documentation. And then when we come to the board meeting, we'll have everybody's documentation available.
Tracy, who is it recommended that documentation is submitted to? Would the board members be submitted to like a
The executive
sub-chair
director.
or what?
It would come to me.
The executive director. Also,
Yeah, I think-
also, let's back up on 6.3. If you go down to letter L in 6.3, we also would need to change 4 to 5. This is the duties of the executive director. And so this is just mirroring the empowering language above to put it in the executive director's authority. And so we would need to change the word 4 to 5 in L. My opinion is that if everyone has my opinion is that if at least one person from each subgroup is present, then not every, it may be, there may be times where a board member doesn't submit. They don't read the cases and thus they don't submit. So having all 4 members of the subgroup submit documentation is not the action that triggers the ability to vote. Have we, y'all, I'm talking myself into circles again. This isn't hard for me to do. Have we set a minimum number, each subgroup, how many, at least a majority, or how many people from a subgroup have to review the cases? Forget about who shows up to the meeting. I believe that if it could be 1 or 2, I think that it would be best to do 1. But have we determined how many board members need to review the cases and have given their review, agreements or disagreements to the executive director? Is that just 1 or is it a majority?
I think it's the majority, and I think that was what my issue was. I was feeling better about the form, kind of attesting that every board member in that subcommittee reviewed and submitted that documentation. I felt better, but then Bert, when you started talking about, yeah, then I started kind of going backwards. I think the majority, again, my whole thing is just the accountability and kind of representing that subcommittee. For me, I'd love to hear from everybody else, but I think definitely more than 1.
Yeah, we definitely need a majority, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's
So
going to be three of the 4.
Yeah, a majority is 3 out of 4.
I think, let me go back for a second. So we're saying only 1 person needs to be representing the subcommittee at the meeting. Hopefully everyone will be there, but if people have to be absent, we need at least 1 person from the subcommittee with everyone else's documentation that they have read and reviewed, approve, or whatever, signed off.
Let me interrupt you.
Okay.
I think we all need to kind of frame how we're looking at this. The subgroup is not a team. It's just, you're just, because it's all individual. The subgroup, there is no, quote, representation of team A, B, or C. People are divided into those, but there is no coordination or consultation required or necessary. Whoever it is, I understand we need to have at least 1 person from each subgroup, but they're not, quote, representative of that subgroup as a whole, because there really is no action as a whole from a subgroup. You're on a subgroup and you're independently reviewing a set of cases as a subgroup member, but there is no collaboration. There is no required, okay, subgroup A has determined that these are all good, or it's all individual. And so if somebody does or does not make their individual position known, then it's no different than what we do now, if somebody does not make their individual position known on any particular case. It's no different than how we do it now. We're just dividing up these cases, and by nature, the purpose of the subgroup is so that we have multiple people putting eyes on each case, so that the determination is what's the minimum number of eyes that we want to have. I mean, it very well may be, this is where this gets a little difficult, is I may read all the cases, but I may not email Tracy my form, and I may not show up on the meeting, but I still read the cases, right? That could be the case now, right? And so how do we want to document affirmatively what the minimum number of people is that have put eyes on a case?
As of now, Bert, like you're saying, I agree. It's on an individual basis, but we are all still responsible for reading all the cases.
Yep.
If we go into subcommittees, and let's say only 1 person turns in their form, which is indicating only 1 person has read all the level twos for that month, that's where I get a little concerned.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things that I'm concerned about is, I mean, we're creating obligations for ourselves by, excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you. We're creating obligations for ourselves that aren't required in law by even creating this step where we affirmatively, where we would send in a form that says we've read and agree on each or disagree on each case, or we want to pull, we're doing more than the law, than the spirit of the law, or the words of the law, not the spirit, the words of the law call for, and that's okay. But just remember, we have the authority to do what we're doing here. At least that's what I believe. And so,
And I'm in agreement with that. I think we could certainly defend, for the law and the code. Again, I keep going back to our accountability as a board and what we're trying to do for the state of Georgia and the community.
Right. And so, and remember, remember this, and I harped on this last time. What we are doing, unless we pull a case, unless we disagree, we're affirming the work of the evaluators. When this board takes action, we're disagreeing. We're saying, no, we don't agree with what the evaluator said. Our action is to affirm or disagree with the work, the recommendation that the evaluation process comes to. And so, when it comes to the accountability of the board, we're either affirming or we're saying, nope, we disagree. The evaluator got this wrong. This case needs to be classified XYZ. So that's the action. When we take action, that's our action that we're taking, is to say the evaluator did not get we're either taking action to say they got it right or we think they got it wrong. And so we're not actually making an initial evaluation. I know everybody knows that, but I'm just kind of trying to frame what exactly it is that our conduct is and our action is. And I'm not diminishing the significance of it, but I think that when you look at it in context, it gives us, I think, flexibility. If someone fundamentally has an issue with, well, I believe that all 12 members of the board should read every case, and then I would argue, well, what we're doing is we are reviewing a determination that's already been made by a clinically licensed professional on this. We're not making an initial determination ourselves. And I think that action that we take reduces the necessity to have all 12 eyes on every single case, in light of the fact if we had 40 cases a month, then I'd say then for efficiency purposes, it makes sense for us to all look at it. But in light of the fact that that is not the case, I think that this is an appropriate thing to do. So I think the question is, and I think that we're probably not ready to vote on this today, is what I'm sensing. And what we've got, and look, this includes me too. What we've got to do, we can't get here another month from now and restart this conversation and not having I think that when we get to next month, we need to either vote to do this or we need to scrap the whole thing and just keep reading all the cases, because we can't restart this thought process, when we get in here. So we're going to have to do this ahead of time in preparation for the February meeting and decide. And if we need to have some meetings where we discuss it, that are not part of our regular meetings or whatever, that's fine.
Right.
But I think the issue that we need to look at is what do we want the minimum number? I think that as a board, we've decided that we're comfortable dividing up the caseload. We're comfortable dividing up the caseload into 3 groups and having subgroups of board members review those cases. I think that the issue that we're stuck on is when we go as a board as a whole to vote on all of the cases, which is what the law requires us to do. Do we want to establish a minimum number of people so that we know at the meeting there was at least one person, or there was at least 2 persons, or there was at least 3 persons that put eyes on and read the cases? I'm not sure. Like, let's say I can't be at a meeting. I read the cases and I let Tracy know, hey, I can't be at the meeting, but I want this case pulled. Is that a way, and remember our action, and that's another thing to remember, Mindy. All right, yes, I forgot about, okay. I knew that I was forgetting something. I knew I was forgetting something. If the board takes action to not affirm what the evaluator has already classified, there is no vote that day. It pulls the case, and then every member of the board is thus required to read that case before the next meeting, and it would then be discussed. So I finally remembered. I talked about this last time. I just couldn't pull it out of the doldrums of my brain. The action that we would take, all of us, every single one of us, would have read a case and discuss it before we vote as a board to either affirm or disagree with the evaluation. So any action, and that was why I was comfortable with it having be a lesser number, because if a case was pulled and thus an action that potentially impacts whether someone is classified as a 1, 2, or an SDP, every person on the board would review that case and discuss it, which, might even be a more thorough look than the cases are getting now, if we kind of did it in that context. So that was why I was comfortable with this, because we would not take action to change someone's status unless all 12 or however many members of the board have actually reviewed and discussed the case.
I do remember that. No, I do like that. I would definitely like to hear from other people. I think for me, I'm just still stuck on that number. Like you were saying, Bert, all 12 of us don't have to read every case, but I'm also uncomfortable with just one of us reading the cases in a subgroup. But I'd like to hear from others. Yeah.
I would
Can I
recommend
throw
at least
something in there
half.
really quick? I'm sorry. Can I throw something in really quick? I
Sure.
think that you're forgetting that there's got to be at least 7 people, if not 8 people, in the board meeting to vote. So if we even take, even let's say 2 per, I guess what you're saying, Minnie, is maybe you'd have everybody reading 1s and 2s, and maybe we wouldn't have anybody reading. All 4 people wouldn't be, or only 1 would be in predators. So it'd be, that's 3, 4, 8. So that would be the possibility, is if you had everybody reading 1s and everybody reading 2s, then there could possibly nobody reading.
If we're just having one person reading the SDPs, that makes me a little concerned. That's why I was hoping for a majority, even just to have our documentation that at least 3 of the 4 read the cases.
But then that would then require 3 out of the 4 be present.
No.
I don't know that we could. I don't know that we. To me,
we wouldn't have to be. They wouldn't have to be at the meeting. It's
then it creates a proxy. But Mindy, that almost creates like a proxy type situation. Well, I'm not there, but here's my vote, and I don't know. And if we get into that, that's a whole different can of worms. And I don't know. I can't tell you right now. do we have the ability? Is that a problem? If we were to create, okay, well, Bert's not here, but he said that he was good with all these cases. So by proxy, I don't know that we have the ability to do that. I think that if we required 3 out of 4 to be present, then history has told us that we're all busy and sometimes we can't make it. And so I think that we would be setting ourselves up to really be punting quite a lot on having to move votes down the line. And I don't know that that's what's in the best interest. So I don't think it makes sense to have more than 2. If we're going to require more than 1 person to be present from each subgroup, I don't think that we should require more than 2.
So
She's not
hold
saying
on.
come to the meeting. She's
Yeah.
saying read the cases.
Yeah, I'm
But-
not
but,
saying be
yeah,
present
and
at the meeting,
again-
but I think that's what Bert's saying. So, but if they're not present, that's the vote by proxy, right?
I
Or
just
that's,
don't know if that's, I don't know. I would have to, I personally haven't done a quote analysis of that, of can we do that? Would need to look at that in the terms of the code section, and
but
I
okay,
don't
so
know.
then let me ask this then to Bert and Tracy. So then what is the purpose of the documentation that we're signing off of, that we read, reviewed, and we're signing? So is that not a proxy that we read?
I personally don't think that it's even necessary. That I think this is what I think. If you want to, if we want to do what is, when I say the bare minimum, I'm not using that in the context of let's make this as easy as possible. I'm saying that what I believe is possible, as far as the least amount of action, is that if the only thing that I feel like that I or anyone else needs to communicate to Tracy is, hey, I want to pull case XYZ. Because no action is being taken on any case other than affirming what's already been established by the evaluator. So I think that all that we need to do is, if any of us want to pull a case, if I say, hey, I think we need to have the whole board look at this case, then I don't think I need to send Tracy a form where I've checkmarked or initialed by every case and said whether I affirm it. I think I'm not saying that that's wrong or bad, but I don't think that that's necessary. I think the only thing that's necessary is for me to say, let's pull that case. And if that case is pulled, then it wouldn't come up for a vote, and therefore there is no quote proxy.
And I'm gonna say I would love to not have you guys do that because it's already hard enough. So getting that paperwork, I think, would be really complicated. So if you can figure out how to not do that, that would be wonderful.
So we're not going to figure this out today, but we need to figure this out before our February meeting.
I agree. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be the one throwing a wrench in. I would love to hear from everybody else.
This is important, and this is why we're doing this. And this is you're doing the right thing by raising these issues. And listen, I've said this, a bunch already. I'm not married to any of this. I did my best to kind of come up with a way that creates efficiencies, but whether or not this is right or wrong or the best way to do things, I am all ears on other perspectives. But I think that having spent so much time kind of going through all these documents, I've really kind of centered myself in what the purpose of what we're doing. And we have to remember that the consequential thing that we do is when we change what the evaluation process has done. And this process, this new process, isn't altering anything as far as that end result, because under this process, every potential change is required to be reviewed by every board member and discussed at the board. So nothing is changing as far as what we do that has a consequential action on anybody who has been, evaluated as a sex offender that's under our jurisdiction.
Yeah, and I'm good with that part. I'm comfortable with that. I like that. I think for me, it's just if we were ever challenged, well, how many, did only one person review these? Only 2 people review these? I really would like to hear from everyone else too, but I like that, Bert. I'm with you there on if we are ever going against what the clinical evaluators have decided, then yes, we pull it and it comes back to the whole board.
Think about this. Think about this. If we're ever challenged, who would challenge us? Somebody who moved from a level 1 to a level 2 or a level 2 to an SDP would challenge and say that what would their challenge be? Their challenge could not be.
I'm afraid to answer that question.
No, listen, I'll tell you, their challenge can't be that board didn't review my case, because the very nature of this process is if this board changed a level 2 to an SDP or a level 1 to a level 2, then every single person on the board that voted at a meeting would have been required to read the case and discuss it. So they can't challenge if something negative were to happen into someone's, if someone moves from a sexually dangerous predator to a level 2, they're not going to challenge that.
Right, of course.
So it's an adverse impact that they're going to challenge. And the adverse action that we take, the adverse being, in the context of the person who's the sex offender who receives a higher status, that action, everyone on the board would have been required to review that case and had the opportunity to take part in discussion on. So there's nothing for someone to challenge that has had, that's been adversely impacted.
And
Unless
the
somebody
evaluators are required to testify when you uphold the case, the evaluators don't testify.
Unless somebody reoffends and they want, and then there's scrutiny on why they weren't an SDP or something like that. Again, I know anything can happen, but. Right.
And so, and that is the, and that's a great point. That is the rabbit hole that you're never, ever, ever going to get to the end of when you're making a decision like this to do something to bring efficiency to a process. Then, I used to say this when I was in the House. I hated legislating to the 1%. I wanted to legislate to the 99%. And, some people, people can be free to agree or disagree, but if you're looking to create efficiencies, then there is always going to be some kind of risk that you potentially expose yourself to. And if you have to decide where that line is, because you're never, ever, ever going to get to the end where it's like, well, we have now done everything we can to shield ourselves, to protect ourselves, and give us immunity against any accusation by anybody out there in the public that says we didn't do our job. Like, we'll never reach that point. And so that's just your X and Y axis on your graph of how you decide, where you weigh efficiency versus, that risk.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're a secondary review, we're not a primary and we're not the only, and we're not a primary and we're not the singular review of these cases. We're a secondary review of citizens, gives me, more confidence in being able to say it's okay, for us to create this efficiency, which again, I believe we're going to review these cases better and more thoroughly with less to review is what I believe. I believe that we're actually going to do a better job.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of good. And it's so easy in these kind of situations to say, well, I only want what's perfect. We're never going to find what's perfect. We have to decide something that we're comfortable with. And the good news is if we get 2 months down the road and say, you know what, this doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. Then we can reevaluate what we're doing here and change it again.
Sounds good.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So that everyone, like, let's go ahead and frame this. And I'm going to burden everybody on this board right now. I'm burdening everyone. If you have an opinion on this, or you have a feeling which way you want to see this go, the appropriate time to talk about this is not going to be at the next meeting. It's going to be before that. We need to, and what we're trying to establish is, what are we comfortable with the minimum number of people from a subgroup to be present at a meeting? And I think that the numbers that we are looking at is, are we comfortable having one person, or are we more comfortable having at a minimum 2 people from a subgroup to be present at a meeting in order to be able to discuss and then ultimately vote on a classification of cases? And
There's 2 things though, Bert. There was the number coming to the meeting and the number of people reading and reviewing. Because somebody could say, I already know I'm on vacation next month. I'm not going to make it to the board meeting. Are they reading the reports? So right now we're down a person. Or are they going to say, but I'll read the reports and I'll submit my document proxy. I think we're trying to get away from that I did read these and I agree.
I think that would need to be, I would ask our Attorney General's office friend for help on that, on whether or not it's proper for a board member to give their feedback in a more unofficial or informal way. I don't know. I think that needs to be looked at. So that's an issue that's not related. That's a different issue than, so there's 2 issues. How many need to be present? And then if someone can't be there, if they do their homework and they submit their thoughts and opinions, is that submission something that is sufficient to count for them? I mean, to me, this is all about discussion. It's all about discussion. And it's all about discussion, Mindy. And so, and again, don't forget that in order to pull someone off, then everyone would then discuss them.
Well, right. No, we've got that established. I was under the impression that we had already agreed, despite mine and Katie's concerns, that we had agreed one person would represent, because we were afraid if we did more than one, we would not be able to vote on the cases and they would get held up. So that's one. Okay, that's fine. One person's representing the subgroup. Now I'm hung up on how many people are reading it, because I think that's where we can start getting into challenges. And I know we're talking in circles now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think,
Go ahead.
because the code section says the board shall determine the likelihood, if the board is at a point where they think that a subgroup can look at a certain number of cases, I can look into it further, but I think if you're gonna go as far as to say that the entire board doesn't have to read each case unless they want to, then I am not sure if there would be an issue with someone. The code certainly, as Bert said, is silent on a lot of things. So there's nothing in the code that I have seen that determines how the board, after they determine the likelihood, how they vote on that, whether you're doing it on Zoom now. So the code doesn't talk about whether it has to be in person, whether it has to be done by Zoom, whether it has to be done by proxy. So I can look into it further and do an analysis. As Bert has said, I haven't done an analysis on that subject, but I think if you're going as far as to say,
I think the first level inquiry, I guess look at it this way too. If we're looking to see whether or not it's permissible or appropriate for this kind of proxy situation to exist, meaning I can't be at the board meeting, but I've looked at the cases and I'm good with all of them except for this one, and I want this one pulled. There's two levels of inquiry by this board. There is the initial where we review all the level one or step one. We review all the cases that are on, that we're required to review. And then we decide, is there any of these cases that we want to pull off? And then we let the executive director know, and the executive director pulls those cases. That ends step one. Step two is whatever cases were pulled, every board member is required to review and then discuss at the next board meeting. So there's two steps, step one and step two. Step one is really where there's less action being taken, really no adverse action being taken as far as deviating from what the evaluation process already deemed. And so because that's a little bit less formal as far as at least adverse impact, maybe having a more informal proxy situation where if someone's not going to be there, hey, I can't be there, but I'd like to say that we need to pull this case. Maybe that's appropriate. I don't know. I just hadn't thought about it yet. The more I think about it here live, I'm comfortable with that, but I haven't thought about it. Does anyone else, Jerry, anybody else, have an opinion on this?
Yes, please. I would love to hear from you. I see everyone shaking their heads, but that's it. I don't know what that means.
Hey, this is Jerry. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but unfortunately, I have to go to another meeting.
Oh,
so
Jerry.
can I follow up with an email or something? I got a hard deadline at
Yes.
in 3 minutes, and I don't have time to talk about it in 3 minutes.
So why don't we table it and we'll start an email thread like we did previously, and we can table it till next month and then come back to it after the email discussion.
I really want to know in the meantime, though, if the AG's office sees any difficulty under our statute with a board member submitting a vote prior to the meeting and saying, this is what I want, this is my vote. That's a lot of what I'm going to say.
Have you changed your minds about wanting either a formal or informal opinion from the AG's office regarding this voting process?
Let me say this, Jerry. I think that maybe the way to look at this, a person who's not going to be at the meeting wouldn't. I'm gonna bifurcate two things: voting at a meeting and asking for a case to be pulled.
Sure. Right.
Those are two different things. And I think that what I'm looking at is not saying that someone would vote if they're not there, but could they have the authority to say, Tracy, I think this case needs to be pulled and discussed by the whole board. I think those are two different things. And I think I'm not suggesting that someone who's not present should not vote. I do not think we should do that.
Okay, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm focusing on as well, is the ability to say, I'm good with everything except this case, and let's get this case pulled.
Yeah.
You did already.
We can do that already. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, I think we do that already. We already say, hey, I want to pull this case.
So the problem is approval of cases. Minimum
right.
to approve the cases.
I got some. That's where I do have some thoughts on that. But like I said, I'm up against a hard deadline. So let's start the email thread, and we'll try to be ready before the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Jerry.
So I just want everybody to know that when I abruptly leave, it's not because I'm like mad at anybody or anything. I just gotta go. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Bye.
All right. Tracy, I believe we're on old business or new business, one or the other.
I hate to do this, but if you would, in your standing procedures, that last sentence on letter L, I think you can get rid of it because you guys cannot vote if all 6 seats, which includes the 3 clinical clinicians, are not filled anyway. We have to have those 6 seats filled.
Yeah, that is in the law, correct?
That is, we have to have the 6 seats, which includes those 3 clinicians.
Where are you you're in the standing procedure?
Yeah, if you standing procedure is the very last page, letter L, at the very last sentence.
So just adjust that accordingly.
Okay, because I can just delete it. It just could be.
Okay,
deleted.
yeah, do what you need to do there to get that.
Okay, I just want to make sure y'all were good with that. So I'm sorry, that's all that I had with that. I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, so yes, I've been putting numbers together because of course, legislation is going to be starting and budget review and all that's going to be starting. And so I did want to share with you guys what I've come up with thus far. And we have some really good numbers. So I'm really excited about that. So I was comparing 2024, FY24 and 25. And in 24, before the new budget, so FY24 is before the new budget that we received. We had completed 516 cases. In FY 2025 after the new budget, and understand that probably with the last year and a half has been a lot of training, a lot of movement. So we still are not at capacity. So when I say that, meaning the number of cases that are going to be completed. So you guys got almost 90 cases this month. It's going to be significantly more than that as we progress with our evaluators learning and knowing how to do this process. So in FY25, so far FY25, we went from 516 cases to 882 cases, which is a 71% increase. So that's a big, really huge deal. And of course, that will be continuing to grow. Just kind of tell you the levels, because we have been focusing on the immediate priority cases, meaning cases that we know an individual has 2 separate sex offenses. So level 1s went from 171 cases completed to 189 cases completed, which is 11% increase. Level 2s from 155 cases to 391 cases completed, which is 114% increase. And with SDPs, 119 to 217 cases completed, which is an 82% increase. We have been doing a lot more reevaluations. I will say that. A lot more are being requested. We went from 71 complete to 85 completed, and that's a 20% increase. But I can tell you that we're seeing more and more of those, and we're seeing more and more court order cases. So those continue to increase with, because of course we're also getting the 10+ year request now that, you know, the SOAR began in 2006, started doing evaluations in 2007. So we're really kind of way over that 10-year mark and more getting requesting revalues for that. So far in FY26, we have, so in FY25, we completed 882 cases for that year. We're halfway through the year and we've completed 590 cases already. So that's so that way surpassed even FY full year. So that's a really cool thing. And again, our level 1s is 128 cases completed, level 2 is 198 cases completed, and SCPs are also 198 cases completed. So really focusing on those identified higher risk offenders, which I think is really, really good. Also with our investigators, in FY24, they completed 1,011 cases, and FY25, it was 1,642 cases. And then they completed 241 IP immediate priority cases in FY25 compared to 180 in FY24. So a lot of good increases over the last couple of years. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's it. So that's really all I have. Really just kind of, Amanda doesn't have a report. She is still recovering from the flu, as I think a lot of them are. But everything is still just moving forward, going really well. We got the retreat. Caitlin's been working really hard on a million things, but including the retreat, getting that finalized, and we're almost there in finalizing that. And we are going to be having a training in April for our evaluators on testimony. So I'm really excited about that. And Marcus continues to train like crazy, and that's been going really great. So everything's gone really good.
All right, Deputy Director report.
Hey, good morning. The only thing I have to report is this next meeting, February 12th.
All right, and then Russell.
I'll say we closed 154 in December, but she covered our numbers that where they're up so much. But we closed another 154 in December.
All right. Thank you. And again, welcome to our new investigator evaluators. We're very thankful to have you. We appreciate your hard work, all the staff. Tracy and everybody who has helped this month. And leading into the next month, we're looking forward to that with more cases in the vote, and look out for the email thread so that we can make sure we get ready to vote on that next meeting. And then, of course, we've got the retreat coming up in April. Anything else from anybody?
Excuse me, Frank, if I could add one thing. We just found out yesterday, the day before, we did get approved for our grant funds again for this 2026. So we're really excited about getting that as well.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns that may have been overlooked? Was there a training today, Marcus? Did I miss that? There is a training.
There will be.
All righty. All right.
I have to go to the Capitol, so sorry, I've got to jet out of here. See y'all later.
Bye, thanks, Bert.
Bye.
see you.
So when, after Frank ends the meeting, I'll give you like 5 minutes to get Marcus set up, and then he'll be presenting on.
Seismography.
And that's about how long a presentation, Marcus?
Half an hour like usual.
About 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
That's fun.
All right. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
So moved. Robbie, second.
All in favor? And then, of course, we have the meeting right after, the training right after. Thank you, everybody, again.